Hello students, this is page 5 of the SAC 1 for methods. We're going to be graphing this square root graph. We've put the lines at the top of the page on the SAC, but I'll just have to go down to them here. I believe that graph was to be y equals square root 2 minus x subtract 1. We need to put it into standard transformation form, and the trick with these, when you have a negative x inside a function, is to factorize out that negative. So if we just look at that, and minus into the bracket, minus x is the minus x above, but the minus 2 gives me the plus 2 above. I can now see the transformations for this graph. Working in Dr. T order, dilation, reflection, translation, there's no dilation, but there is a reflection. I'm going to list what the reflection is. You may not have to do it to do this problem, but it helps to draw it and work out what's going on. It's a reflection in the y-axis. It's a reflection this way. That's what that negative does inside the function there. In terms of our translations, we've got 2. It's plus 2 in x direction, or plus 2 horizontally. That's opposite to the sign of the bracket, and it's negative 1 in y direction, or negative 1 vertically. You could draw a little sketch. I often recommend that. I just do like this, and I say, well, I've gone back 2 and down 1. I know I'm there, and because I've flipped from the original that was that way, I'm going to be going this way. I've got a bit of an idea about how I'm going to draw it when I get to my graph later on. Of course, looking at my little sketch, I'm going to need an x-intercept and a y-intercept. So, and I'm still working on the left-hand side and dividing my paper in half. So if I found the x-intercept next, that would be y equals 0, 0 equals square root. You could do your working in that original format. You don't need to do the working in the format which shows the reflection. I'll add the 1 over. I would square both sides. I'll add the x over here, and I'll subtract the 1. So x is 1. So that is 1 and 0 for the x-intercept. Put it there. You could put it up here on this line. Doesn't matter where you put it. As long as you list that in x-intercept, I think that really helps. I've drawn a vertical line. That really helps me to structure my page. X equal 0, y equal root 2 minus 0, subtract 1. Y equal root 2, subtract 1. Typically we would write that perhaps that way around. We would list the point. And if I was going to draw a graph, I'd actually, hopefully, even without a calculator, have some idea that this is just in your head. Root 2 is approximately 1.4, so that what we've got in there is 0. It's approximately negative 1 plus 1.4 is sort of a 0.4. That just gives me an idea of scale and where to put it on the graph. I will label my graph with this. Now we've got enough points. Hopefully the working lines at the top of the page and the graph underneath allow you to do the working a bit easier. That's 2 and minus 1. We have a point there at 1, 0, and a point there at about 0.4. I've got them noted down. I remember what they were. It's a backwards, and then you would need to label this as 1, 0, and label this one as, we could label it here. I think it was 0 and negative 1 plus root 2. You can always do that just to let people know exactly what you're doing, and you could always go back down to check the numbers that we got. They would be in a different place on your screen, and it's even good to have a pen and paper next by to make notes of those. So let's have a look at what we got. -1 plus √2, and yeah, so they're okay. I'm just going to do the domain and range from the graph. It's x up to -2, but then backwards, -infinity up to the 2, and the 2 was included. And in terms of the range, just do another little look at that graph. It's -1 up to +infinity. So again, we've got it included, -1 up to +infinity. And you never include an infinity, so that's how that would look. In terms of marking scheme, I guess we would have 1 for the endpoint, 1 for the domain, which you find at the end, 1 for the range, 1 for the appropriate shape, 1 for the x-intercept, labelled on the graph correctly, 1 for the y-intercept. That's 6 marks. And of course, if we go down, you've got it written on the top and bottom of your page, but that was worth 6 marks. So now we'll go on to the next one. Worth 6 marks. Stop that recording.